Hi, everybody. Welcome to What a Week. Chris McKinnon here with John Keller for another week in politics.
What a week. What a tie.
Oh, thanks,
That's what
John.
we should change the name of this segment to What a Tie.
We'll just talk about the ties all day
That's
long,
very
right?
nice tie.
Thank you very much.
It kind of picks up the jacket.
Picks up the jacket, keeps it kind of the springy.
But you've got a pop of color and,
Exactly.
and pattern. I like it.
Exactly. All right. Well dressed today. I get the approval.
We're
so
done.
My job
That's
here
all
is
for
done.
our segment. Thank you.
Let's talk about President Trump officially kicking off his re-election campaign this week. Chose Florida for obvious reasons. And what was your take on this? Did you think we heard anything new? How do you think he connected with, I mean, not just his base, obviously it did well with his base, but, you know, he needs to grow that beyond the base for re-election.
Sure does, and I didn't hear anything new. I don't think he feels he needs to change anything. I mean, I think, you know, look, part of the problem with the Trump administration has been, for lack of a better term, the stubbornness of the commander-in-chief. He doesn't listen to advice, however good it might be, doesn't adapt or change in certain situations, is undisciplined at times, and I think that was all on display here. I mean, yes, the first task of any incumbent running for re-election is to lock down their base. Although it seems to me, judging from the consistency of the polling over the last 2.5 years, he doesn't need to worry about that. His followers are as locked in as any core base I've ever seen in presidential politics. But, you know, yeah, you said it. He's got to do better than that. He's got to reach out to people who may have voted for him last time, may not be, you know, instinctively inclined toward the Democrats, but they're wavering. Polls show that they're wavering. There's concerns about the economy. He's going to have to find a way to reach out to them.
Florida, obviously, always a big key battleground state that we all have our eyes on.
And always close, too.
And very close. Would you categorize Florida as a must-win to have a path forward for him?
If he can't win there, it's over.
Okay.
All right, yeah, and I think he probably will win there. But when you look at the map and the polling information that leaked, their own internal polling was devastating because it suggested there's been some real erosion. Plenty of time to fix that, but you got to start fixing it, and what happened Tuesday night wasn't fixing it.
Let's flip to the other side, the Democrats. This is a story that's gained some traction over the past day or two, and we're talking about Joe Biden, frontrunner, and he came out talking about how he was able to work with colleagues, segregationalists in the past, and he's taken a ding from Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, Senator Warren even fired kind of a soft shot his way. What's your take on this? Do you think this is something that's actually going to be able to bring him down in the polls in this primary?
Yes, to some extent, no question about it. I mean, this is the template for what you're going to be seeing for right up through Iowa and New Hampshire, where you know, Biden is staking out this, I hate to use this cliche, but this centrist lane, the moderate lane. The core of his base is older voters and centrists. And a lot of the energy, particularly in the primaries in the Democratic Party, is more on the left. So whether it's Twitter going berserk or other candidates firing away at him, every time he says something, I mean, set aside the thing about the segregationists, which was an ill-advised comment. He should have chosen other examples of conservatives that he worked with. But just him saying that we've got to get back to bipartisan collaboration elicited shrieks from the left of, work with these Republicans? How naive and stupid are you? And so you're going to get a lot of that. It's going to hurt him. His standing in the polls, I think, is subject to shrinkage, and you've already seen it. But in the long run, I don't think it's a bad call to suggest that that's the way to win in November of 2020 by reaching out toward the center. Whether that gets it done in the Democratic primary universe, a whole different question.
So if he can kind of march through this and hold off enough of the slings from the farther left, he might be able to put a message together for 2020.
I think so. We'll get our first taste of how well equipped he is to handle that in the first debate next week.
All right. We'll be watching that closely as well. And then back here at home, let's talk about another hot button issue, abortion. So Massachusetts legislators considering this new abortion bill that would allow after 24 or 26 weeks, if the child has a fatal condition, medical condition, and also allow women under the age of 18 to get an abortion without parents or a judge's consent.
Right. Now, that's the one that I think is potentially problematic, and not really so much here in Massachusetts. The pro-choice majority in the legislature is, I think, pretty solid. So I would look for this bill to pass, although you never know. Obviously, there was, raucous hearing the other day. A lot of opposition was expressed. But, beyond the anti-choice movement itself, there are a lot of people who support abortion rights but are a little skeptical about the idea of no parental consent for a minor. Wait a minute. I mean, that brings in issues of what are parental rights, and it just raises a whole lot of questions. I remember it helped sink Shannon O'Brien's candidacy for governor in, 2002, when she was defeated by Mitt Romney. There was a debate in which she came out for an backing off of parental consent rights. And it really hurt her in the polls. So that could be problematic. But, Chris, ultimately, in the long run here, it may be most problematic for Elizabeth Warren. Let's say Elizabeth Warren becomes the Democratic nominee or is getting close to it. This is yet another Massachusetts thing that is going to be used to cast her as way, way out of the mainstream. If I were her people, I'd be getting ready to handle it now, not later.
All right, John, appreciate your insight
Good
as
to see
always.
you. Have a great weekend.
You too, and you as well. We'll see you next week for What a Week.